Claudia Webbe.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Speaker. The coronavirus pandemic has caused widespread suffering for too many individuals and communities across the UK. We have the worst of both worlds. In addition to recording the highest number of excess COVID-19 deaths in Europe, we are facing our worst ever recession, which is nearly twice the severity of comparable European nations. The furlough scheme has been an indispensable lifeline to millions of workers during this pandemic. Yet the government is intending to sever this crucial support, which will have devastating consequences for people in Leicester and across the country. Over 4 million workers are still on furlough, just weeks before we reach the Chancellor's October cliff edge. The latest data from the Office for National Statistics, the ONS, suggests that this is more than 1 in 10 workers, but in some sectors, this is as high as 41%. The government should be targeting support where it's needed most, such as in the arts, entertainment and recreation sector, and in accommodation and food services activities, not withdrawing it across the board. Mr. Deputy Speaker, the government simply cannot turn their backs on workers. With coronavirus cases spiking across the country and with our testing system in crisis, they cannot blindly hope that this crisis will magically resolve itself. I'm gravely concerned that the abrupt ending of the job retention scheme will put more lives in risk, especially amongst the working poor. It is impossible for impoverished people to comply with guidance on self-isolation and social distancing. Cutting the job retention scheme will disproportionately impact women, and without proper protection from racism in the workplace, it will disproportionately impact African, Asian and minority ethnic communities. It is therefore not just morally imperative, but in the best public health interest of everyone in our country that people's basic needs are met. Mr. Deputy Speaker, my home city of Leicester has been hit particularly hard by the coronavirus. It has been an incredibly difficult and tumultuous time for our residents, who continue to face coronavirus restrictions and indeed other parts of the country actually do not. The economic impact on our city has been immense. I have been helping many Leicester East residents access support, and in April I wrote to the Chancellor urging him to widen the job retention scheme, and in a sense this is what we're debating here today, and it's particularly hard that we're having to do so. It may be hard for this government of the super rich to understand, but many residents in Leicester do not have savings to fall back on if the furlough scheme ends abruptly. Even before the coronavirus hit, my constituency was suffering from an unacceptable stagnation in living standards. As of April 2019, the average weekly income for full-time employees in Leicester East was £420. This is £130 less per week than the East Midlands as a whole and £160 less than the UK average. I'm particularly worried by the number of people claiming unemployment benefits in Leicester East, which has more than doubled since the UK lockdown began. In March 2020, 2,145 Leicester residents claimed unemployment benefits, whereas by August this had shot up by 143% to 5,210 people. And I'll just end by this. Now is the time for the government to prove that they work for the majority of people in the UK who live paycheck to paycheck. That means as we enter a probable second spike, the well-being and security of our communities must be prioritised above all else. Thank you, Mr. Deputy Speaker.
Andy Carter.